anya na ịchọpụta ihe bụ ọgwụgwọ ọrịa. Ebe mmadụ dịka Gọvanọ Makinde kwuru na ya ji mgbọrọgwụ o nwetara n'ụlọ na ihe oriri nke o riri na mkpụrụ osisi nke ọ tara wee gwuo onwe ya. Ọwa ya enweghị ike ileba anya were mkpụrụ ọgwụ ndị anyị nwere n'ụlọ iji chọpụta ọgwụgwọ ọrịa. Ndewo.
Good afternoon, sirs. My name is Femi Ogunshola. I work with the News Agency of Nigeria. So a concerned parent sent it to me, sir, and that is directed to the Minister of State for Education. My daughter is in Russia for a scholarship program. Nigerian government hasn't paid them since January. What is delaying the payment, sir? Then to NCDC DG, sir. Cross Rivers State said it will quarantine NCDC team coming to the state for 14 days. What's your reaction to this? And sir, earlier in the day, I was at Gariki Market. Sir, I discovered that there was no social distancing, sir. What can be done to this market?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the PTF, my colleagues. Good afternoon. My first question goes to the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs. Members of the civil society group have come up to say that at the moment there are no financial palliative to the people, that what is ongoing is the usual conditional cash transfer. So I want you to react to that. And the second leg to that question is a coalition of civil society groups said they have written to you several times for you to come up with the names of those that have received palliative whatsoever, money or food items, for you to publish it on the website for people to know these people and talk to them. So I don't know how long that will take to come out. Mr. DG, sir, we have this allegation coming in from Kogi State, from the state government, saying that your staff in NCDC are appealing to them to come up with figures, even when they do not have cases of COVID-19 in that state. So I wanted to react to that. And also in Cross River State, we hear the Commissioner of Health coming up with that same allegation, saying that your staff sent text messages to them for them to come out and say they have COVID-19 in those days. So I wanted to react to that. Mr. Chairman, sir, the NLC president have advised his workers to protest if governors tell them to reduce their salaries, those that are in the front line fighting COVID-19. I want you to react to that also. And for the Minister of Environment, last week you told us that you are working with the Ministry of Aviation to decontaminate about, I think, 124 aircraft and some other places. I don't know, want to get update on that. And finally, I have this appeal from someone in Abia State. He said, at the moment, there are mysterious deaths in Abia State, and there is little or no reportage of that issue. So he wants NCDC to come to their rescue in that state at the moment. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the Presidential Task Force and Nigerians at home. I want to ask, my name is Mitaire Ikben of the NTA. This question goes to Dr. Sani Aliu and members of the task force. As managers of the pandemic, can you give more explanations into the phased relaxation of the lockdown? Because as at yesterday, we witnessed more cases, the highest in a single day, and we want to know why we are going into phased relaxation of the lockdown. Is it for economic reasons? Is it because we have come to the peak of the pandemic, or the curve is going higher? So Nigerians want more explanation. Then for the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, you told us days back that 279 trucks of grains have been distributed to the lockdown, the three lockdown states. We want to know an update or progress report on the distribution of grains so far. Then for the NCDC, one of our colleagues who is monitoring at home wants to know the number of NCDC staff that are down with COVID-19 and in isolation at the moment. Then for the question asked earlier by my colleague on pension for the SGF, she is requesting that you please also answer in Hausa. Thank you.
Thank you. We have taken all the questions. We will take responses in the following order. The Honorable Minister of Health, the DG NCDC, the National Coordinator. That's for the technical side. Then we'll take the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, and Social Development before we take the Honorable Minister of State for Education. The SGF will round it up. We begin with the Honorable Minister of Health.
Good afternoon again. The first question is about why the cases increased from 105 we announced and to 195. It is due to two things we look at. First of all, improvement in testing, case finding. You recall that the Director General of Nigeria Center for Disease Control has the ambition to be able to do 2 billion tests within the next 3 months. That means that there is a renewed effort to do more, let us say, aggressive testing, house to house, and also following any clusters that are of interest. So you increase the testing and you also get more cases. There's, of course, the notion that the strong notion that the community transmission is going on very strongly and therefore increasing the cases, giving you something to find. As for boosting immune systems, there are many remedies that are said to boost immune systems. Some of them are well known. You are told about vitamins, vitamin C, A, you are told to eat fruits, you are told to eat vegetables. There are many things which are said to boost immune systems, which I also urge you all to do, to eat fruits, eat vegetables, and particularly citrus fruits, which are like oranges. But there are also traditional remedies that say that they boost your immune system. I receive almost every day a letter from traditional practitioners who are offering traditional medicines they have put together and praising the quality and the efficacy of this medicine. Well, so long as they do not harm, we do not object. But I urge the Department of Traditional Medicine and Traditional and Complementary Medicine at the Ministry of Health to look into these ones and to work with the Nigeria Institutes for Pharmaceutical Research and Development, NIPRID. They are responsible for analyzing and finding phytomedicines, for looking into products of plant origin to see what is medicinal in there. So NIPRID will be able to find out actually what works and if it works. Well, the DG for NCDC will speak about life in the ISO Center. We have only been there as visitors. And the life, of course, is life in, there are halls where you have community living of those who are positive. We organize various activities. We are encouraging the treatment centers to provide mental health support because some people get bored, some people do not know what to do with themselves. So mental health support is provided, and some creative ones among them also create games and have fun and amuse themselves in there for the 2 weeks or so that they spend. There are those who are in single rooms who are in isolation because they have traveled and they are waiting for their status to be determined within 14 days, either through a test or through the fact that they have completed 14 days of observation. Those ones will be in a single room. For those who do not like being alone, it may not be very easy. But for those who are quite happy to be alone, who can work on their computer, who can look at TV, who can read books, it is not difficult. I don't think it is. But I think by and large, it depends on your kind of personality. If you're in isolation, some people will not be able to take it so easily. But again, mental health is provided there, and various methods of counseling are provided. With the gene expert machine, yes, we recognize the value of it because they are, can be very useful in the diagnostic effort. The gene expert machine, we have received over 100,000 cartridges. Sorry, we have not received, we have ordered. We are going to order 100,000 cartridges using the Global Fund facility that we have through the country coordinating mechanism. And if we are able to get the biosafety cabinet for 26 of them, we can boost the number of active or activated gene expert machines in the country. So with over 107,000 cartridges, we can do a lot of testing. The gene expert machines, we have 4 modules which allow you to test 4 at a time. And the good thing about them is that they give you a result in a much faster time. Within 45 minutes, latest 1 hour, you have your result, so you can wait and get your result with the gene expert machine much faster. Yes, I think I've spoken about traditional medicine already. It pops up again another time. Thank you.
So, thank you again for the questions. There was one, what's life like for a patient? I think there are quite a number of patients that have actually come out to tell their own stories on what life is like, for what it's been like for them. I know for sure that all the states, Lagos, FCT, and every state is working very hard to make sure that those admitted are as comfortable as possible, but they're still within hospital environments mostly, or treatment centers. So they're working very hard to make life as comfortable as possible. But I think it's up to the patients themselves to share their stories when they're ready. And on certain occasions, it might be up to the hospital to let journalists into certain parts of the hospital, but it's not really for NCDC to do that. The patient care has to be managed by the clinicians and managers of those hospitals themselves. So we leave it to them to decide on when and how to make that public. But their priority, obviously, is the care of their patients, and that is always the priority of every clinician. The question on the use of alternative medicines for treatment. Yes, I'd just like to say that 95 to 98% of all patients will recover from this illness, irrespective of medical interventions. So, depending on where you are, many patients are asymptomatic, like you know, they would recover. So all we need to do is keep them. The only reason we're keeping them in hospital or treatment centers is to prevent transmission to others as much as possible. So 5 to 15%, depending on where you are too, will have severe illness. Some will unfortunately pass away. But remember, most people recover. And a much larger percentage of everyone infected from this disease recovers than many other viral illnesses that we know. So I don't think we need to be as despondent as we appear to be. We're faced with a big challenge, yes, but it's obviously not immediately a death sentence. There was a question on how well people are adhering to social distancing. I've said severally here, this really is everybody's responsibility. For a pandemic of this nature, where really we have almost every state in the country now affected, has at least one confirmed case, and we're doing so much work, we can't go everywhere to ensure that everybody is 2 meters apart. If we deployed all the forces that we had in the country, we still would not be able to do that. So we cannot rely on the police or the army, customs to enforce something that we're able to do ourselves. So this is really a call for all of us to do the bit that we can to carry out the social distancing measures that we require from ourselves in order to prevent transmission. This is not punishment. Nobody has committed a crime, so this is just to limit transmission to one another. There's a question on if an NCDC team will be quarantined for 14 days if they arrived at any state. I mean, I think we're at this stage right now. Every state is at risk. So the idea that moving from one state to another leads you or qualifies you to be at higher risk, it really is no longer the case. We could have thought about things like that in the beginning of the outbreak. But now, the measures that we recommend globally for everyone. Whether the measures that the national coordinator just announced, he hasn't announced it for one state or the other. He has announced it for every state. So we're no longer looking at this as a disease with differentiated risk. We're looking at this as a disease where all of us are at risk. And whatever measures we have to do, we have to all do collectively, whether you're in the north or in the south, in the east or in the west. And if the risk is more or less all over, then there's no evidence for quarantining any group of individuals, be them NCDC staff or not, for moving from one part of the country to another. Finally, there was a question on the number of NCDC staff infected. This is not a question that anyone would answer. I never give out that type of information. We ask you to continue supporting all healthcare workers across the country, whether they're NCDC staff, Federal Ministry of Health staff, Lagos State government staff, or even private physicians. Some of them have actually been private physicians that manage patients without initially knowing that they had COVID-19. And it turns out later that that patient turned out positive, and you found out that you had actually managed the patient, and then you get infected yourself. So we actually ask for support for all of them, not just one category or the other. And I think the final question, or one of the previous questions in Igbo, was on the use of natural remedies for curing some of these, curing COVID-19 in some patients. That's him. Kama most people got them. So when you are jishike, neme ko neme. Inokwa no logo, inobe gepda. Most people I hope got So I'll end it for now. I think I've answered all the questions, and we'll go and continue work. Did I miss any of them? Can you remind me? Okay. Firstly, I honestly don't want to join issues. I wouldn't join issue with any executive governor of any state in Nigeria. I think I made my position very clear yesterday. My role is to interpret the evidence the best way we can. This is not only about COVID-19. When we urge people to go for HIV testing, it's because nobody's written HIV on his forehead. The only way you can know whether you have this virus in the early days is to get tested. When we talk about we've had the largest number of Lassa fever cases in Nigeria ever, we have it because we have become more aware, we're testing more, and we're finding more. The only way we can understand the scale of COVID-19 is by testing. And so it's really not a controversial issue. Everybody is agreed on that fact. We're pushed every day to test more. So I don't think my comments were controversial. My role is to continue supporting every state in Nigeria with labs, opportunities to test. Most states in Nigeria are asking us, pushing us, how do I get a lab? How do I test more people? And we'll continue to do this on behalf of every state. Thank you. Yeah, I answered that. Our staff will make operational decisions as we engage with them. Thank you.
So first of all, I'll start with the issue of the unfortunate case of the lady with cancer who needs medical intervention in Abuja. As I said earlier, not all travel is restricted. We will allow essential travel. Our thoughts are with her. And if there's any way we can help, she should please get in touch. But we expect that the security services will allow her to come over, provided she has all the documentation she needs to show them. But certainly if there's an issue, she should please get in touch and we'll facilitate that. In terms of the banks, this continues to be a recurring issue for all of us. We have been in touch with the CBN governor. Moving on from Monday, banks will open. They will operate normal services from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., so that's 6 hours, but there will be the usual restrictions we would expect. So, for instance, self-distancing, the use of temperature monitors, hand hygiene, and making sure that the capacity of the banking halls is restricted so that people do not, too many people do not come together. But we expect banks to operate as normal, really, apart from the restrictions that I have already emphasized. Release of lockdown. Public transport. So outside the curfew hours, buses and motor parks will be allowed to open for some hours in a day, I believe 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and taxis will also be allowed to operate. But because this is a respiratory viral infection, what we're actually trying to do is to limit interaction between persons. Because if you come in contact with somebody who's infected, it's a highly infectious organism, and you wouldn't really want to end up with COVID. And one of the best ways of preventing transmission is to put space between you and the other person who might be infected. So there will be regulations around reducing the number of passengers, for instance, in taxis. There will be rules around restricting the number of hours they can operate, which is why we brought in the curfew hours. And also the issue of hand hygiene and respiratory hygiene, etc. This is all directed towards reducing transmission, which is what we're really trying to do. But we will allow some semblance of transportation, public transport, to be available in the states, including FCT. So the final question was, why are we relaxing the lockdown? And as I said earlier, we're not really relaxing it. We are looking at modifying the current interventions we have. We're moving to more of a containment phase. If you may recall, when we imposed the lockdown, it was primarily for two reasons. One, to slow the progress of the epidemic, and two, to allow our health systems to get ready. So even internationally, if you look at the global scale, countries are struggling to decide when is the best time to do this. Some might delay for 6-7 weeks, some might open. But what is important is we continue to keep a strong focus and monitor the number of infections we are having, monitor where these infections are happening, and moving in fairly quickly to control them. Some of the measures that we'll be putting in place, we will be more strict with those measures, because if they are implemented as a bundle, they will have very similar effect to you staying at home. So for instance, if you maintain social distancing, hand hygiene, you use face masks, you avoid mass gatherings, and you do that consistently, you'll probably get a similar advantage to staying at home. Of course, we will continue to encourage those that are most at high risk of severe illness to stay at home. I think I've answered all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. we will do a minor adjustment in the order in which ministers will respond to the questions. We'll invite the Honorable Minister of Environment to come first, followed by the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Then the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, after whom the Honorable Minister of State for Education will take his turn. Honorable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Chairman, colleagues, press, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, or good evening rather. Decontamination, disinfection, specifically as it affects the aviation sector. The aviation sector is such a specialized sector. We don't rush things. Last week I did say yes, we mapped out 125 aircraft and 13 airports. So far we have decontaminated and disinfected 2 aircraft. Why we are not rushing it, like I said, is because of the nature of the industry. Is a place that has such a redundant system of safety, so everything must be followed carefully. Even when we to do that, we have to follow their lead, how and where to go decontaminating and disinfecting this aircraft in particular, and also, of course, the airports, areas where we should go in, when and how, and all that. So it's ongoing, is exactly what I'm saying. And because there are other facilities that we are decontaminating and disinfecting all across the country, so we go as, they are ready for us. Thank you.
Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs.
Thank you, PS. Chairman of the PTF, Honorable Ministers, members of the PTF, distinguished members of the press. Let me start with the first question on NAFDAC. We still stand by what we said, because this was what was conveyed to us by customs, and we have a certificate to that regards, that this rice given to us is fit for human consumption before I even flagged off the distribution in Lagos State. We can give you that certificate maybe by tomorrow or later today. But let me also remind us that NAFDAC, Nigerian Customs Service, and the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, and Social Development respect each other's mandate while carrying out our respective responsibilities. So, the Nigerian Customs Service and NAFDAC, I'm sure, will sort out this communication gap, and will report back to this platform once that is done. On the issue of the directives by Mr. President that we expand the social register by 1 million, that has begun already. As of today, we are at 3 million and projected to be at 3.1 million with the existing one that we have already of 1.2 million earlier on. And we're anticipating to reach a target of 3.6 by the middle of May. Ebonyi is now captured, which was not in the register before. Oguntu is currently being captured, which was the only state that really had not even begun to join the social register. And by next week, they'll be able to join the social register before we move them to the beneficiaries register. It's a question around the CSO. They have come out to say no palliative to people, that only CCT ongoing. Well, we have mentioned here that the CCT is an existing program. Mr. President directed in his first broadcast that we give 2 months advance. That could also be termed as a generous gesture as a result of the COVID-19 and the response. In the second broadcast, Mr. President also directed that we expand by 1 million again. On the issue of the CSO saying that they have written to ask for names of these beneficiaries. I don't know if you mean the beneficiaries of the cash transfer. Well, it's against the norms to actually publish the names of individuals that benefit from this government intervention or any kind of intervention. But we have a record, according to states, local government, down to the community level, the number of beneficiaries of these poor and vulnerable households. And as far as the issue of the grains, we're all aware we're given 70,000 grains. As of today, we've been able to deploy 9,320 metric tons of grains to these 3 affected areas. That is about 334 trucks. While Kano is ongoing, 50 trucks are almost arriving in Kano. So this is what we have done as far as the issue of the grains is concerned. Well, I've mentioned the issue of the publication of these beneficiaries, as I have said, is against the norms and even against human dignity for you to, because you're supporting somebody, then you expose him to the public. We have the record, state by state, local government by local government, and community by community. We have also aggregated to the level of the persons living with disabilities, the percentage, gender percentage, heads of the households percentage. We have all that. You can go to the NASCO website, the National Social Safety Coordinating Office website, and you get that the details. I'll be able to answer all. Okay, the CSOs that said that they've asked for us, we have not even received any official request to that regard. As I'm talking to you, I've confirmed from the office, no CSO wrote to us that they wanted this information. In any case, this is all we can even say. I hope I have answered all the questions raised. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Minister of Information and Culture. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the task force and the gentlemen of the press. It is true that the creative industry is probably the most hard hit by the COVID-19. And this is because the industry, which creates so many jobs, has always been the fastest growing sector of the economy. As a matter of fact, apart from agriculture, it employed the highest number of people. Regrettably, with the COVID-19 pandemic, the industry has been very, very badly hit because the industry comprises travels, music, the film industry, theater, concerts, all kinds of industries that actually draw people together. So there's no doubt that this is the most hit sector of the economy. Before the pandemic, we were actually in the process of organizing the third annual Creative Sector Week, which is normally is a platform whereby every stakeholder in the industry will come together and we plan ahead for the expansion of the industry. Unfortunately, with the COVID-19, this is no longer possible. So what we are doing now is that we're trying to set up a committee of key stakeholders in the industry to come up with urgent measures to keep the industry going. Fortunately for us, even before this pandemic, the federal government had put in place certain palliatives in quotes that would speed up the growth of the industry. I'm talking about the central bank creative industry initiative, which actually gives people in the industry opportunity to apply for loans between 5 million and I think about 500 million naira, depending on which part of the sector. I think this is an area that we need to ramp up now, and we need to continue to talk to the central bank on how the members of the industry can benefit from this particular fund, especially at this time. There's always been, both the United Nations, World Tourism Organization, and UNESCO, in the last couple of weeks, have been holding virtual meetings with all ministers of culture and all ministers of tourism on the way out of this, crisis. So it's a global issue. It's not restricted to Nigeria, and global organizations like WTO and UNESCO we have been meeting and talking to ministers who have been providing solution. Very soon, we'll also very soon announce membership of the committee that would engage the central bank and engage other development agencies on how we can come out of this crisis. Of course, we are also spending the time in between to speed up the implementation of the digital switchover. The digital switchover is probably one of the best, cure to this, economic crisis, because when the digital switchover is actually on course, full course, then it's going to create more jobs, in the creative industry than it is today. But the important thing is that we must also not forget that the federal government has also set up two other committees, one under the Vice President and another under the Minister of Finance, looking into which sectors of the economy are most affected by this pandemic, and how, even post-COVID, we can recover quickly. And I'm sure that the committee would take as priority the creative industry. We're talking about tourism, talking about music, talking about the film industry, talking about concert theater and travel industry. So we were hopeful that we'll get out of it. We'll continue our consultation with the central bank, with the development agencies, and also with the world organizations. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister of State Education.
Well, okay. Right. Your mask.
Thank you very much.
much and good evening. I think the question relates primarily to why our students on our scholarship in Russia haven't received their money. Knowing how far the news media is, let me just first of all use this opportunity to apologize to them. As many as haven't received their money, I think we have a few problems in just about two countries. Everybody else has received their money, and it's none of your fault. I think CBN suspended work on it immediately this broke. We at the Ministry of Education had signed off on all the remittances for the month. However, we expect that you'll be paid within the week, because I've heard and I've just confirmed on the phone from the Director of Scholarships that CBN is at work on it and should be implemented within the week. If you've incurred expenses out there, the Embassy and the Foreign Affairs Ministry are available for you to report so that you can then be augmented for a while until you get your actual money and you can then make a reform. We apologize on behalf of the government and people of Nigeria and wish you all well, wherever you may be. Thank you.
Thank you. We shall now take the chairman of the PTF, the SGF.
I think the first question here had to do with pensions. Somebody asked about the fact that I did request that if there were specifics, they should be directed. And the question was that retirees have not received their pensions. The information I have is that the contributory pension they have not been received since January. Yes, to some extent is correct. The simple reason being that the accrued rights of the pensioners is to be paid by the federal government and is presently being processed. When that is paid to PEMCO, then PEMCO would add the two. Because you know that we have been in a process of transition as far as the pension scheme is concerned. There are people that retired in January of 2019 that came with their accrued rights from the old pension scheme that will be merged with the new pension scheme. And that is being processed at the moment. And once that gets into to the accounts of the PEMCO, they will begin to receive their pensions. Somebody did ask that, I think it was Channel Reporter, about the fact that in the last dispensation there were no punitive measures for infractions on the guidelines. I believe they were. Those were the essence upon which the mobile courts were established. The mobile courts were not just to, caution people. There were some measures of punitive decisions that were taken. Some were fined. You heard about what happened in Lagos out of congregating for a house party. Some people were fined, and they were also directed to provide some kind of what you call public service labor to go around educating people about the need for social distancing and also maintaining personal hygiene and the other advisories that the health experts have issued. So it will continue in the same line. I believe that in every constituency, in every state, there will be mobile courts. Like most of the governors in administering their restrictions, they sign the quarantine declarations as it affects their states. And in the quarantine declarations, definitely there are some punitive measures. But you see, the thing about this particular pandemic that we are fighting, you need a lot of buy-in of the community. And that's why, as much as possible, the tone should be reconciliatory. It should be a collaboration of the people with the government and the agencies of government so that we can decisively deal with this particular pandemic. And I believe that is the spirit we will take. Though enforcement in the next segment will be much, much stricter. That's why we are giving time for workplaces to prepare, to make sure that they make provisions available that would enable their workers come and they would have an enabling environment to operate in direct consonance with the advisories that have been given. And I believe we will receive maximum cooperation from the people of Nigeria because, like I said yesterday, I will keep repeating it. The stage we are going into is a stage of personal and collective responsibility. Yeah, there is this apprehension that the figures might spike. Every expert that I know, of people that have been following the trend all over the world, they will tell you it will spike. They will tell you it will spike. We saw yesterday, we had 195. Part of what has gotten us to that stage is because we have ramped up our testing, which is very, very important. And I must commend the DG, Nigeria Center for Disease Control, for his boldness of saying that his objective with his team and the task force is to test 2 million Nigerians in the next 3 months. That's a very bold step. And we must commend him for that boldness, and we must support him to be able to achieve that. And the only way we can achieve that is when we get the buy-in of the people. That presupposes that we will be testing about 50,000 people per state, on the average, before you can reach that figure. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of resources that will be committed to it. But the beauty about it is that we will be able to evaluate the status of our people as we ease up the lockdown and release certain businesses that will keep our economy running. It's very important that each and every one of us take personal responsibility for our life and for our conduct out there. The third question had to do with a question that the Honorable Minister for Information and Culture had also answered, but I think it was directed to both of us. There are two packages that I know of that the central bank has released. There is a package of 100 billion naira, a loan package as part of the stimulus. There is one for 50. The one for the 100 billion is majorly for hospitals and pharmaceutical companies, because they are the ones that I believe government is trying to ensure that after COVID-19, if in the future, we don't pray for it, we are encountered again with something similar to this, the infrastructure, the medical infrastructure would have been adequately prepared to deal with future pandemics. So the guidelines for that, you want to advise the people that are asking to check the CBN website. The guidelines are well documented and enumerated in the CBN website. The second stimulus that I know of is a 50 billion naira stimulus for a category of activities. One, the activities that are covered under this scheme is agricultural value chain activities, specifically to address the question. The second item here is hospitality, accommodation, and food services. They fall under this particular stimulus package. Then there is health, pharmaceuticals, and medical supplies, airline service providers, manufacturing and value addition trading, and any other activity or any other income generating activity as may be presented by the company or enterprise. That is also provided for the guidelines adequately on the central bank website. So enterprises that are interested in accessing these two packages, make sure you have a bankable plan. You can approach the CBN through your bankers with a bankable plan, and once you meet the necessary requirements and the criteria that has been put in place, you will be able to access these funds. So the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has made adequate provision to ensure that in the midst of the crisis, and that was one difficult decision the president had to take, to balance our health and also to balance our wealth. And it's a very complex thing. No country has ever gone this way. We are charting uncharted waters, so we are trying, taking one step at a time. But my confidence is that with the resolve and resilience of Nigerians, if we work together, we will be able to balance this thing, in spite of the hurt and the pains that it will inflict. But I believe that it will only endure for a moment. After this season, we will become a stronger and a better nation. I got a text from one of the governors, and he asked me to tell the Voice of Nigeria reporter that that also is fake news, that nobody from his state said that the officers from the NCDC officials said they should just produce a figure. He said it's fake news. So cross-check your news. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With the permission of the chairman, we have two responses from those watching from home. Dr. Sani Aliu will quickly let us know the responses.
So along the same lines, I have a response from the CBN governor regarding the query on bank customers finding it difficult to access their funds. So again, he said that most banks continue to be open for skeletal services. It is not true that bank customers cannot access their funds. Bank customers can do funds transfer, while those who prefer to withdraw their cash can do so at ATMs. As I said, by Monday, banks will start opening for at least 6 hours a day, and hopefully some of the challenges people are facing will reduce. We also had a response from the lady with cancer from Warri. So if she is listening, if she can send us her details, we will provide her with a cover letter that would enable her to travel, and we wish her well with her treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sani Aliu. We have come to the end of today's national briefing. We must thank our partners, as always, the media. We must thank NAPTIP, as well as Sight Savers, for providing the sign language translation. We must thank you watching from home or wherever you are, and for responding to issues that were raised on the floor here. A number of messages have come out. First is from the education sector. For those on scholarship that are yet to receive their funds, please note the clarification and assurances from the Honorable Minister of State. Note in particular his apologies for the delay. This is humility in service to all Nigerians from this government. Two is that out of COVID-19 challenge, we must emerge stronger. It is directed at our researchers. We must encourage our local scientists and deepen our capacity for research. All our researchers must play a role at this time. We must take advantage of this challenge. Domestic and international inventions on COVID-19 are most welcome, but scientific validation process and protocols must be followed. Please reach out to appropriate authorities with your inventions and your discoveries and follow all protocols, and it will be taken on board. 3, COVID-19 has altered the way we live our lives. Easing the revised measures do not amount to the end of the battle against COVID-19. We must be more vigilant and ensure stringent compliance with the measures put out. We cannot afford any lulling of our vigilance at this point. Please, Nigerians, be vigilant, comply, prove that you love yourself and you love all those around you. Cover your faces, wash your hands, gel your hands, keep the distance. I thank you very much. God bless Nigeria. We'll see you tomorrow.
You just watched the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 press briefing. Now Nationwide continues. Calm and adherence to medical and government guidelines against coronavirus remains the first remedy at this point in time to stop the spread of the disease. This is the view of stakeholders in Taraba State after it recorded 8 cases of COVID-19 in 2 days. Joseph Utsen reports that all confirmed cases so far are from the 130 travelers intercepted in the state and presently in isolation.
The 130 interstate travelers intercepted at different occasions were coming from Bauchi, Kano, Jigawa, Borno, Ogun, and Lagos states. Because the State Technical Committee on COVID-19 considered the places they were coming from as high-risk areas, the people were quarantined and samples taken for testing.
I wish to assure the good people of Taraba State that this is not a time for panic, as government is on top of the situation. Additional manpower and resources have been mobilized and deployed to trace the contacts of all those that have tested positive to the coronavirus.
This virus is in our town. Is in our state. So we must abide by the rules of hygienic improvement. We must improve our hygiene. We must be very vigilant.
The Taraba State has closed its land borders with neighboring states as well as international boundaries with the Republic of Cameroon. And it is presently on total lockdown as part of measures to stop spread of COVID-19. The present status of the state demands strict adherence to preventive measures approved by the World Health Organization. In Jalingo, Joseph Sound Otsen, NTA News.
Mitaire Ikpen is still at the venue of the Presidential Task Force COVID-19 press briefing, and he's going to give us highlights of the briefing. Mitaire, you're on.
Okay, thank you very much. one of the major highlights of the presidential task force briefing today is that despite the gradual relaxation of the restriction order in Lagos and Ogun State, as well as the FCT, all schools are to remain closed and all interstate movements are to remain banned. This is because all states are at risk, according to the NCDC, and they are not ready to take chances, especially as community transmission of the coronavirus is still in place. And also, just to add that the overnight curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. will be applicable nationwide. That is according to the chairman of the Presidential Task Force, Mr. Boss Mustafa. However, the PTF says buses and taxis could operate outside the curfew hours. That is talking about between the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And also, one of the prerequisites for the reopening of offices and businesses is that these premises must be fumigated and decontaminated, and the management of these premises must provide hand sanitizers and other hand washing facilities, in addition to the compulsory use of face masks and the observance of social distancing. So those are some of the highlights here today.
Thank you, Mitaire. Thank you so much indeed for your briefing. Thank you on Nationwide. Executive Director of the World Health Organization, Dr. Mike Ryan, says Nigerians should be prepared to accept the medical and scientific result of the autopsies of the Kanu results and work together to confront the common enemy. In a statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, Dr. Ryan observed that while some people may wish to believe that there are other causes at play in the matter, such as hypertension, diabetes, meningitis, and acute malaria, there are others who say it is COVID-19. He explained that the obvious thing about the case all over the world is that communities with similar socio-economic dynamics, like Kanu, have found as very helpful the sort of lockdown measures now imposed, with markets and other public places of worship shuttered more strictly. While expressing the President's and his government's concern with the people of Kano State and promised not to let them down, he explained that there are reasons to believe that the mortality rate in Kano due to COVID-19 is out of control, and that it may spell a serious development, to which the best action would be for the federal government and state government to work more tightly together to find solutions and implement together. According to him, there is no time for energy wasted on political point scoring, whether by current or former holders of office. To him, there is no time for talk. The common purpose is to preserve the lives and health of the citizens. It's time to take another break. Don't go away.
Wetin be this coronavirus thing? Na true?
You see this coronavirus wey be COVID-19. Na the whole world palava, and e don dey kill many people for China, Italy, UK, US, Spain, and even for other countries dem.
Okay, wetin come be the reason wey dem say make everybody tanda for house?
Na because if e dey waka pium go carry am from person wey don get am, you go carry come give your family dem. Na so the thing take dey kill other people for other country.
Okay, wetin come be that social distancing sef?
You see social distance. Now make we no come close, because this thing now from air and touch now we dey contact am. We suppose dey at least 6 foot away from each other every time.
So okay, no be only to wash your hand and to sanitize them alone.
Make we no take this washing of hand thing take play, but make we come together, join hand as we take pursue Ebola, pursue this coronavirus. Make we be each other keepers now.
Allahu Akbar. The Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, under the leadership of its President General, His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammad Saad Abubakar, CFR MNI, congratulates the Muslim Ummah on the commencement of the fasting of the month of Ramadan, beseeching Allah to grant us the blessings of the month and to inscribe us among the inhabitants of Al-Jannah. The Council has directed the suspension of congregational Taraweeh prayers, Majalis al-Tafsir, Quranic sessions, and i'tikaf seclusion in the mosques during the month of Ramadan. Islamic scholars and organizations are to employ the electronic media for dissemination of tafsir and other da'wah activities. Janazah, washing, shrouding, prayer and burial of Muslim victims are to be carried out by officials of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, and other government health officials. Detailed guidelines on the suspension and the janazah are available on the Council's website and are being published in national dailies and sent to the federal and state governments as well as leadership of state councils and various Islamic organizations. The Quran says, "Make not your own hands contribute to your destruction." His Eminence the Sultan praised the Almighty Allah to preserve our lives beyond the Ramadan and grant us its blessings. Mr. Yusuf Nwoha, Director Administration, Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, announcer.
Staying at home is the most responsible thing to do. Please, learn a new skill. Be a better version of yourself. That's what I spend my time doing. Prevention, they say, is better than cure. I beg, make we sit down for house. I know some of us want to get back to socializing, but if we don't sit down for house, no good feel happen. Please, stay safe and stay responsible.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 2255 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
Thanks for staying. More palliatives for residents of Zamfara. Abdurrahman Jibrila has details of this from our Sokoto studio.
Good evening, Lydia, and welcome to Sokoto. Sokoto State has recorded 3 deaths associated with COVID-19. Alhat Abdullahi reports.
Given the update, Governor Aminu Azere Tambol said, to date, the National Center for Disease Control has tested 54 samples of COVID-19 suspected cases from the state. Out of the figure, 19 tested positive. Of the total samples, 18 were tested at the Sokoto Testing Center and the Usman Danfodio University Teaching Hospital, and 9 tested positive.
And out of the 19 positive cases, unfortunately again, we have recorded 3 COVID-19 associated deaths.
The deceased had records of diabetes, asthma, and high blood pressure. All those that tested positive have contact history with the index case in the state. Tambol emphasized on the ban of travels through the interstate routes leading to Sokoto and the closure of the Niger Republic border with the state.
I appeal once again to our communities to continue to cooperate and support our security agencies that are keeping vigil at our borders, interstate border and border with the Republic, with the sole aim of protecting our lives.
Those who tested positive are receiving medical care at the isolation center of the infectious disease hospital Amanawa, and no one has been discharged yet. In Sokoto, Dalat Abdullahi, NTA News.
That's it from here. Lydia, back to you in Abuja.
Many thanks. The Ansaruddin Society of Nigeria will continue to obey government order on lockdown of places of worship and adhere to all precautionary measures instituted by the federal government towards curtailing and containing the coronavirus pandemic in the country. This was while donating palliative to the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 in Abuja. The report.
Led by the Deputy National President, Dr. Yusuf Adebayo Ibrahim, the leadership of the society was at the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation in solidarity with the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 in its efforts at fighting coronavirus in the country. The National Coordinator, Dr. Sani Aliu, received them on behalf of the committee.
Thank you very much.
I know you are all praying. We are also praying and working hard on this part to ensure that this COVID-19 is controlled and that we get out of it safe, unscratched.
The palliative, made up of food items, will be distributed to the less privileged in the society, irrespective of their religious affinity.
As far as this is concerned, all our mosques all over the Federation is being closed down. We don't operate, we only operate from the house. Well, we advise all mosques as well to do the same thing, because nobody is above these diseases. This can kill anybody. It doesn't have recognition for either imam or anybody.
We are strengthening certain parts of the intervention and at the same time allowing some semblance of economic activity to proceed. We cannot reach the public, the communities, without going through faith-based organizations and traditional leaders. This is a very strong partnership. We respect the solidarity.
Ansaruddin Society of Nigeria is one of the Islamic faith-based organizations founded about 70 years ago.
Ondo State government announces incentive for health workers. For this and more, let's join Agatha in Benin. Agatha, you're on.
Thank you, Lydia. A warm welcome to Benin. With confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Edo State hitting 30, there is little hope of things returning to normal anytime soon. The education sector is one directly affected, and Goodluck Enaini reports on the measure taken by government to meet the educational needs of children at home.
Schools in Edo State were closed late last term to check the spread of coronavirus. Ordinarily, schools ought to resume for the third term on the 27th of April, and from all indications, there is little hope of this happening anytime soon. This is why the state government has deployed the Edo Best at Home initiative, an adapted online version of the Edo Best School Learning Program, which the state government introduced 2 years ago to provide daily lessons on the SUBEB website. Edo Best at Home is comprised of interactive audio lessons with customized messaging, digital self-studies activities packed, digital storybooks, and virtually moderated teachers and student classroom interaction. The module is designed to offer up to 4 hours of learning daily.
We are partnering to provide zero data access and two-way SMS at no cost to parents. Also, for those parents with basic feature or analog phones, daily content will be delivered through USSD and audio files.
Children with special needs are not left out under the arrangement. The governor urges parents and operators of private schools to key into the initiative at no cost. In Benin, Goodluck Enaini, NTA News.
That's it from here. Lydia, it's back to you.
Thank you, Agatha. Efforts by the chairman of the defunct Pension Reform Task Team, Abdul Rashid Maina, to vary the terms of his bill have failed, as the Federal High Court, Abuja, declined to grant his prayer. Olabode Arewa reports.
The trial of former chairman of the Pension Reform Task Team, Abdul Rashid Maina, resumed this Wednesday. 2 applications filed by the prosecution and its defense teams were slated for ruling. The court held that the defendant was not entitled to a further variation of his bail conditions because there were no special circumstances to warrant such a variation. It therefore struck out the application for lacking in merit. Justice Okonabang also declined to grant the EFCC application seeking a revocation of Maynard's bail terms.
The court dismissed the application to revoke the bail, rather struck it out instead of dismissing. And we found that strange because argument has been canvassed.
No date has been fixed for hearing of the matter. The defendant is facing a 12-count charge of alleged fraud and money laundering. In another development, Justice Okonabang has directed 20,000 young professionals from Cross River State to put the state government on notice of the pending motion to be heard on the 30th of April, seeking to restrain the state government from interfering with the funds belonging to the 18 local government areas of the state. In Abuja, Olabodarewa, NTA News.
And that concludes Nationwide. Thank you for being a part of it. I am Lydia Odijochi. Good evening.